Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the second segment of Hudda tonight. As we said in our introduction, we're going to be addressing the U.S. political climate right now as the run-up to the national, presidential, and other elections this November. Just yesterday on Tuesday, the so-called Super Tuesday, where there were a number of U.S. states that held preliminary elections. We are joined to talk about how Mr. Donald Trump and this anti-Muslim sentiment has been growing in the political race, the presidential race this year. We're joined by Dr. emaad.muhanna, a professor of political science and strategic studies. Assalamu alaikum, Professor.
Walaikum salam. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You know, Muslims there are dying in the United States. They're being attacked. Mosques are being targeted, Islamic sites. This is unfortunately, this climate is translating into bloodshed and death.
That's right.
So it's very frightening. You know, we've heard analysts looking at the situation in the U.S. and describing it as a situation that we saw in Germany during the 1930s under Nazi regime.
Yes.
Systematically trying to isolate Jews. In this case, in the 21st century, it's Muslims.
Yeah.
Have we advanced politically? We're supposed to be getting better, but we're still doing the same stuff.
No, because politics is always governed by ideologies and the interests of states. And unfortunately, not even what we talk about in terms of a democratic system and people are the source of legislation and the source of all policies. The fact here is certain lobbies are the source of politics. And when it comes down to people on a ground level, they are actually followers. So what we need to talk about here is that United States is a political system that comprises a two-party system where you basically have two different approaches in terms of looking at things. You get countries that are basically three-party system, multi-party system, limited party system, and an unlimited party system. Like in Egypt, for example, in the Arab world, you might have 50 or 60, and as in Egypt at the moment, you got 115 new political parties. But so in terms of United States, basically each party before the election starts a wave of whatever supports their agenda.
People are looking to get people behind them.
That's right. So if you look at the Republicans are always believing in building United States through power. They believe in war. They're very aggressive in their approach. Unlike the Democrats are more softly in their reaction towards crisis. They basically looking at relationship. So now resolving issues through relationship. But in the Republicans, resolving issues through power.
So if we compare the administration, the Bush administration before Obama came,
that's right.
We had Afghanistan, the Iraqi invasion,
that's
all
right.
these things.
That's right.
But now under Obama,
they're softening it down. So therefore, we can't really say that Trump is going to drive politics in certain ways, or Bush drives it in certain ways. It's all an approach or a policy or a plan that has been drawn for 50 to 100 years. What we are experiencing in terms of policies now are already drawn a long time ago. If you look at all events taking place in the Middle East, the events are taking place during the war in the 90s between Russia and Afghanistan. United States supported Afghanistan against Russia. So they basically helped Osama bin Laden to grow up and then capture him afterwards, claiming that he's actually a terrorist. In actual fact, that you made him that way, you supported him, you made him big. So in the end, what we're going to find in the next few months is basically increasing the wave of violence against Muslims and the reactions of Muslims against the Americans. My expectation, you will find a number of terrorist attacks in different places. Might be the Muslims, might be the actual, militias or lobbies that are actually triggering the violence.
You mean groups outside of U.S. targeting U.S. sites abroad, etc.?
That's right. Or as it's in September 11. We all know September 11 was actually a homemade movie. So the fact here is you might find that certain people are actually going to drive the Americans to support Donald Trump. My expectation is the Americans will go for the Republican leadership this time because Bush has managed really to put his hands or the hands of America over a number of areas, basically expanding their power, you know, in the Middle East particularly, and basically threatening Europe economically. During the time of Barack Obama, they softening it down, fixing up a lot of relationships that were damaged, playing it cool with China and Korea. Now you can see, or a few months ago, we saw the agreement between the United States with the 5+1 and Iran. So they're softening it down. My expectation, this is going to blow up again during Trump time. The Republicans will go about aggressive reaction against what's happening in Syria, aggressive reaction against the Arabs in the Middle East, and my expectation you'll see a lot of involvement and interference from the United States post the election in the Middle East with the aim to focus or to control more the resources in the Middle East. Taking into account that the Middle East is basically fragile at this point, Russia is in Syria, expectation that Saudi Arabia might go into Syria, you know, fighting the Daesh in an alliance with Turkey. Egypt might go, might not. But again, there is talks around, again, military interference in Libya. I think this is all going to slow down in the next 6 months. Obama, normally the American president can't take strategic decisions in the last 6 months. They can't because it has to be sustainable, and they put plan B and plan C.
He even, at the end of last year, said that there's no, he doesn't see any progress in Palestine, another big issue.
Absolutely. So the American president never really takes strategic decision towards the last 6 months of his period. So what we will see now at this point, United States will play it very cool in Syria particularly. They're not going to confront with Russia. They're going to watch and see what is going to take place in Syria. The main thing to them is to secure Israel. They're going to watch Iran and its involvement in Yemen with the Houthis, their involvement in Syria, and how the situation becomes more and more bad for the Arabs, you know, because now if Saudi Arabia goes in or Turkey, you're going to see two parties basically fighting on the ground level.
So this, what you've done is helped us appreciate why the world is so interested in the U.S. elections.
That's right.
Because depending on who's in the White House, which party
is in,
it's like an expansion, contraction.
Exactly.
You know? And
exactly. They play different roles. So when you want an aggressive role, then you push for the Republicans, and you can see Republicans are always into war. Bush the first, Bush the second, you're going to see Trump. The Democrats, Bill Clinton, the highest economic growth in the history of the United States. So they build on an economy, softening, you know, confrontation and playing it slow and peaceful with their opponents or their enemies during Obama's time. So America needs to expand in the next few years. My expectation based on their policy. They need to expand because I think the involvement of Russia or Russia stepping into the warm waters of the Middle East, I think United States needs to react because they're losing a plot. Africa is the same because China is expanding economically in Africa. Russia is expanding in the Middle East. Russia is playing it very strong in Europe with the gas. United States over the past few years, they lost quite a lot in Europe. They lost quite a lot in the Middle East, particularly after the Arab Spring and the movement of the Arab leaders, the new Arab leaders towards the East. So they need to gain that back.
So you're answering a question that I had. You're saying that over the next 6 months it'll be pretty quiet internationally unless something major happens that they need to react to. But after, if the Republicans win, you're saying that we can expect to see an escalation.
Absolutely. You will see an escalation.
So the question is this an economic necessity? Is this the
Definitely. There is an economic recession in the United States since 2008. So you're already having a lot of problems there. I think they also fearing the pressure, the Arab pressure, particularly from Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, on the American economy, because the Arab are starting to realize that their investment needs to be diversified, number one. Number two, they need to move part of their investments to Europe and part to the Middle East, because it's not fully secure now in the United States. So I think the United States are quite worried that if an alliance once becomes a reality under the flag of the Arab League, is going to threat the interests of the Americans in the area. Which basically means if you get a strong alliance between Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Emirates, financially, Egypt on the army side, Syria settles, I think United States is going to lose the plot completely in the Middle East.
Just this week, or at the end of last week, the first time in 16 years, Egyptian president goes to Japan.
That's right. So you will see a lot of shifting going on. Korea, he also visited Korea and visited Kazakhstan. So here he's going into the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, has gone into Korea, and I think somehow there is some connection with North Korea, but it's just not on the table at this point. So I think United States has lost quite a lot. Number one, because of their aggressive approach towards the Arabs, the antagonizing them, also with regards to their involvement in the Arab Spring, supporting the Muslim Brotherhood in certain areas, playing the wrong role in Iraq and Syria. So they lost the plot quite a lot, and I think they're going to have to gain that back. I'm talking about strategically. That's what they're going to have to do, because it's a major power and they can't leave the ground for the Russians.
So if Trump gets into office, you expect an increase in militarization.
Yeah. He's going to play aggressive on the economic side as well. He's going to get very aggressive with Saudis and the Gulf region because of the finances. That's my expectation. He's going to change the profile of investment in there. He's going to get his hands on oil and the policy in terms of oil production. Because at this point, the OPEC is still supplying the oil. I think they're worried about, the Iranian supply, because they are the first in the world in terms of supply. The second is Saudi Arabia. And therefore, what you also say that the Arabs are losing a lot of money, because it was 115, 110, now it's $23, $24 to the barrel. So you're talking about a lot of money that you're losing out. Now, with that production, where is the stock going? It's going to Western Europe and United States. So it's going cheap to the warehouse of the United States. Once that gets built up during the last 6 months plus the next 12 months, when the Republicans, and I'm saying Republicans because that's my expectation, Trump is going to win.
Trump is
because that's how they play different roles. So you're talking about a year and a half of supply, quite enough for 10, 15 years supply. They're going to start playing aggressive, not worried about cutting the oil supply from them, because they already have a stock. So that's how they do it. They play very safe, drop the prices down, and then continue the supply. So they can stock it. Once I have a big stock, then we can play. So I'm not worried because I've got a stock.
Right.
That's how they play it. Yeah.
All right. So in particular, which areas would you say we should expect to see? We hope you're wrong, Professor.
Yeah.
But where is it Syria? Is it Libya? Where should we see an increase?
Your question is quite, it's very interesting, because when it comes to superpowers, they don't really fight for our sake. It's all interests.
Yeah.
When people were talking about a war that might erupt between Turkey and Russia because of the aircraft, we said that there's $40 billion economic cooperation between Turkey and Russia, so nothing is going to happen. They might just pay for the aircraft and apologize, and that's about it. But they can't really trigger a war because of an aircraft. The cooperation is a lot bigger than the loss. So my expectation is they're going to cut a deal. Russians with the Americans, they're going to cut a deal, but after the American elections. But before the election, the American elections, and during the elections, until it's settled, Russians will win quite a lot in Syria. And I think that's also strategically, Putin is looking at that. America is not going to take a strategic decision now, even if something major happens. And that's what you said earlier. If something major happens, they might change. No. America is never going to go into a war in the last 6 months. Never. Because there's nobody to make a decision, because they call it an executive decision. The president has to be there, and he can't, in the last 6 months, sign off a strategic decision.
Right.
Never.
We also see journalists making a lot about the fact that earlier in Obama's presidency, he talked about Bashar Assad. He had to go. We couldn't move forward unless... You know, he leave, but now Obama's about to leave, and Assad is still in power.
Because politics take a long time, and this is the good thing about the American politics when they play in it. They don't play it in a rush. If you look at the establishment of the Jewish state, this is since 1885 and 1890 they planned it. So when it was put into place was already 60 years. So they play it very, very slow. What they've been planning for Syria, they have to basically put certain actions into place and take it into account that Russia's not going to keep quiet, because Russia looks at it also from the national security point of view. The countries that surrounding the Russian Federation, basically Iran, Syria, Turkey, and the east you've got Korea and Japan and China. So that particular area, when it comes to Iran, Iraq and Syria, those are the gateways to Russia. So Russia is not going to let go of Syria quite easily, unless America cuts a deal that Russia backs off, and then America will compensate the Russians for something else. At this point, they're going to sell Bashar al-Assad. And my expectation, this is not going to go on for long, because the fact here is you can't continue a country that is in a civil war until, you know, the day of judgment. Is going to stop. Russians will continue in there. They're trying to win as much as they can while the Americans are neutralized. The Americans are neutralized now because of the presidency elections. So they win as much as they can. They establish a relationship with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf countries, pushing into Syria. Until United States wakes up after the elections, they're going to push them back. And at the end, as I said in a previous episode, it's all about the Cold War, moving the battlefield from their own home yard into the Middle East. So the new Cold War that is taking place is actually on the ground of the Middle East, and that's how they divide it.
Now, just to remind ourselves, the reason why we're talking about all this international politics is because you're saying there's a direct relationship between these presidential elections in the U.S. and how all of this is going to play itself out.
That's right.
Now, Muslims are responding to this anti-Muslim hostility in the United States in a very positive ways. We've seen them organize various kinds of events. And each time there's a major terrorist attack, whether in the U.S. or in Europe or anywhere, they come out
and condemn it.
And condemn it, very important step. And also we're seeing Muslims with programs, national programs, such as voter registration, getting Muslims registered to vote to get ready for the elections. I mean, it's a very small percentage of Muslims.
But it's actually representation. It's not about the number. It's the image that reflects. And here it really shows the the Muslims as a civilized nation, as not as it was they were described before. You know, they're not into politics and they just all interested in making money and living their lives. But now they're trying to be part of an American dream, because you know, they are Americans living in the United States, just in a different religion than the majority. So they're trying to be part of an American dream and support whoever is good for the Americans. So they're playing the civilized way. But unfortunately, politics is supported by ideologies that is not always religious. And if it was, we couldn't see Hitler killing the Jews, and he's Christian, killing the Jews, who are both people of a book. So the fact here is politics has got nothing to do with religion.
So do we know, have we seen statistics in terms of typically how most American Muslims vote? Are they mostly voting for Republican or a Democratic candidates?
No, the Muslims normally go for the Democrats because they are softer. The Muslims generally, and this is really based on the beauty and the peacefulness of Islam, that it is not a religion of war, it's a religion of peace. So you find that most Muslims are really into the Democrats. But in the end, it doesn't always work that way. They're just going to have to pick a side. Muslims are trying to play, we're talking I think about 10, 11 million Muslims in the United States, very small minority against about 6 million Jews. But here, who really plays it? It's the 6 million Jews that actually plays the lobbies. The stronger, the richer, the more into government positions, businessmen, multinational corporations. Muslims are very, very small percentage of them that are actually have businesses.
Just starting to
exactly.
Get in.
So what drives politics is the money. Because the British always used to teach us is that the boss is the one that pays the bills. If you pay the rent, then you're the boss. So whoever pays the bills in the United States are basically the large lobbies, the multinational corporations. You're talking about 1 or 2 companies that can actually weigh half the Middle East in terms of fortune.
Yeah, so I don't think we can ever expect to see sweeping changes, but because of its commitment to rule of law and this kind of thing, we've seen some great successes for Muslims in the United States.
Absolutely.
Even last year, a Supreme Court decision in favor of a sister who won a settlement, a case, not a settlement, against a company for wanting to wear hijab discrimination.
United States, when we were studying it in international relations and politics, United States is the most successful political system on earth because it's all built on institutional rules, so no individuals play a role. It's also a country of law. If there is manipulation in a process, it's very minor and it's for the benefit of the country. So if they push, the lobbies push for Republicans or push for Democrats, it's for the benefit of the country overall in terms of, for example, they want to get into war and have the aggressive policy of the Republicans, then they will support them against the Democrats. If they want to get, and you could see that Obama didn't really have a great report at the end of the first period. Yet he succeeded in the second, succeeded to be re-elected. And basically it means because they needed more time to settle a lot of relationships. Therefore, they said, okay, we're not going to go into any aggressive actions at this point. Keep Obama to continue whatever he's doing. So Obama was there to play a role. And there's something that we learn about the politics as well when it comes to the American system, that the American president governs, but he doesn't rule. In other words, he's on top, but he doesn't get his hands dirty.
He's not a king, yeah.
Exactly. So there is a lot of institutions that get involved in a decision-making
process. As you said, it's not governed by an individual personality.
Absolutely. It's all institutions, and in the end, they implement whatever is good for the country, and that's how they drive it.
Now, just a few weeks ago, Obama went to a mosque in the U.S. state of Maryland. It was the second time that he went on an official visit to a mosque during his 8 years as president. Why do you think it's important for him? I mean, he is on the last few months of his presidency. Why, if at all, is it important for him to continue to show solidarity and support to Muslims?
Because it confirms what we said right in the beginning, that both the Republicans and Democrats play whatever is good for America. So the rule of Obama is ending, but his rule as a president is ending, but rule as a politician is not. So as a president, I've got 6 months to go, but as a politician, I still need to maintain good relationship between an American institution or political system and the Muslim minority, and that's how they play. And you will see all presidents till the last day, they play a role, because it's basically, that's how I describe it. Your role as a president is finished, but your role as a politician
must continue.
It must continue.
Now,
and this is what you see, if you excuse me, until the last day of his life, Jimmy Carter plays a role.
He's continuing.
Ronald Reagan plays a role. All of them, because this is what we, and I like your question because this is what we miss. You find Ali Abdullah Saleh, when it ended his period as a president, he became opponent. When you finish your role as a president, you become an enemy.
In Yemen,
in Yemen, in a situation. So the fact here is, we want to learn that because it's a political culture. You took a position, you are in office, you play it 4 years or 8 years, you finish your role as a president, but you still your role as a politician must continue. So he's building, not just for Democrats, but he's also keeping the connection, not for the Democrats alone, but also for the Republicans, just in case Donald Trump takes over, so Donald Trump can use Obama to keep the connection.
So this is a part of the Democratic political agenda.
That's right.
To incorporate Muslims into
absolutely.
Right?
It's a clear policy. They want to incorporate the Muslims.
Now, do you think the Republican parties? I mean, they have threatened to ban Muslims. They're trying to stop Muslims from entering.
This is just to attract the Americans that hate Muslims. That's a fact. If you look at the September 11th, if you remember together, you find a lot of people that walking into the street, you know, waving and shouting that Bush must go into war. So you get a lot of Americans that are into that. They believe in American patriotism. And others believe that now America can be good country through good relationship, can be safe through good relationship. But the Republicans believe that America can be safe country through a strong army. So it's a different approach on how they look at it, but they each basically complement each other. So Obama has got connection with the Muslims, so Trump can use it.
So essentially, you've heard this expression about good cop, bad cop.
Absolutely, they play a different role.
Yeah,
and this is exactly what you see even in the Arab Spring. Look at the statements of the United States, statements of France, statements of Germany. France steps down, Germany goes up. United States step up, Russia goes down. That's how they play. But we actually don't rule. And remember, in one of the episodes we talked about the animosity. We said, you know what, that now Russia is becoming our friend.
In the Arab
world. So just ignore the American. It doesn't work that way. Because
don't burn the bridges, because at the end of the election you're going to be...
Because nobody's your friend and nobody's your enemy. It's all about interest and benefits.
All right. Now, you know, some of the things that Donald Trump has said in the media have been so outlandish, so racist, so hostile towards Muslims and Islam, yet he is increasingly getting more support.
That's right.
Are you saying that it's essential for him to be increasingly radical, increasingly extreme, to draw in people?
Exactly, and aggravate the Americans, even the soft ones, against the Arabs and Muslims, to make sure that that charge is always there, so when they want to go into war, they backed up by taxpayers.
He may not personally really believe all the stuff he's saying.
Exactly.
But it's a strategy.
It's a strategy
for victory.
It's a country strategy led by lobbies. So what he's doing now, he's charging people. You know, he's charging people. So when he goes into election, he's up. When they go into war, the charge is there, so he can pull the entire country behind it. And if you look at the softness of Obama, if Obama was during the time of September 11th, wouldn't succeed. Because his approach is not about aggravating the Americans. That's not the democratic approach. It's about, you know, good relationships, slow down, soft it, build a good relationship. But the Republicans are good at that. So they aggravated the Americans, and that's why you see not just in 92, but from 89 and 90 in the first Gulf War, the Americans never complained. And the army is out of the United States since 1989.
The American voters are being said it's a matter of patriotism. You need to focus your attention on the troops, the human beings that are being sent, not the policies. Professor, we're almost out of time. We just got a couple minutes left. How would you like to round out this conversation, inshallah?
First of all, the Muslims or Arabs shouldn't really worry about Trump or anybody else. Trump is just a toy that basically plays the role given to him by the American god, if you like, of politics, that basically comprises a number of lobbies, a number of multinational corporations, and a number of special interest groups. That's how America is running. America is not running by a president. America is running by groups. And in the end, Donald Trump is basically the knife that is used to cut the cake where they want to be cut and save it where they want it to be saved. So they wanted certain areas to be saved, so they put Obama forward. Certain areas wanted to be cut. Afghanistan wanted to be cut. Iraq wanted to be cut after they already pushed Saddam Hussein to take over Kuwait. So they got Saddam to destroy Kuwait and then cut Iraq. Now they got into Syria, got into Libya, wanted to get into Egypt, and soon, if Saudi Arabia doesn't really maintain a good balance, they might walk into the Syrian trap. So I hope that King Salman doesn't get into that trap. From the Arab point of view, we shouldn't really worry about who Trump is or anybody else. We should draw our own agenda, our own political model that we can actually enforce on the entire world. So we do three things. Politically, we need to reform the Arab League to have a strong organization to follow. Number two, build the economic Arab joint venture, joint market, to have something on the contrary of the Arab Union. Number three, have solidarity and cooperation among the youth, which basically represents 65% of this nation. You're going to have a strong nation, educated, cultured, and powerful in politics.
Professor Emaad, thank you so much for being with us. We have reached the end of segment 2 of the program discussing the U.S. political scene. We will take a short break, inshallah, and come back. We're going to switch gears and move to a more spiritual discussion on the longest surah in the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the third segment of the program. As promised, we'd like to open up the longest surah of the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, the heifer or the cow. We're joined by two guests to go through this surah. Mustafa Abdul Qayyum, welcome to tonight.
Thank you very much, brother. It's always a pleasure of mine.
Likewise. Also, Brother Luqman Hakim is joining us. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you for having me. May Allah bless you.
Thank you so much. And you as well. Where do we start? I think you told me tonight we're going to be going through ayats number 30 through 34. If you're following us in your Quran, ayats number 30 through 34. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So, Brother Mustafa, would you like to start us by reciting these ayats, inshallah?
It's my pleasure, brother. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت وأنت العليم الحكيم قال يا آدم أنبئهم بأسمائهم فلما أنبأهم بأسمائهم قال ألم أقل لكم إني أعلم غيب السماوات والأرض وأعلم ما تبدون وما كنتم تكتمون وإذ قلنا للملائكة اسجدوا لآدم فسجدوا إلا إبليس أبى واستكبر وكان من الكافرين. صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you so much, Brother Mustafa. Beautiful recitation.
You're very welcome, brother. Thank you very much.
Brother Luqman, please help us understand the meanings of what Brother Mustafa just recited.
Okay. First of all, I would like to begin by saying all praises are due to Allah. May peace and blessing be upon our beloved Prophet, his families, his companions, and for those who follow them in the righteousness until the day of judgment. Today we would like to look at the beautiful story about our creation. We would like to look at the story of us because it is dealing with the creation of the first human being, that is the Prophet Adam. How was the Prophet Adam created into this world? So we would like to look at and try to study from this ayah. Very beautiful story in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the angels and how the discussion between Allah and angel go on. So we would like to look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. And remember and recall and mention when your Lord, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the angels, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, I am going to place khalifa in the earth. I am going to create khalifa in the earth. So if you look at this ayah, you will find the discussion between Allah and angels. First of all, let us try to look at what is the definition of angel. Angel is the creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created from the light. An angel is very different from us. Angel don't eat, don't drink, and don't marry. And they always obey Allah, and they will not disobey Allah. So here there is discussion between Allah and angel. Allah said to the angel, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, I am going to create, I am going to place khalifa in the earth. Let's try to understand what is the meaning of khalifa first. Khalifa, the word khalifa literally means someone who comes after someone else and then he is taking his place or replacing his position. But the word Khalifa here refers to the Prophet Adam, because the Prophet Adam was the first human being that was created by Allah in this earth. So if you look at the word Khalifa here, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the word Khalifa, in refers to the Prophet Adam, because you know that actually the most important mission that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to a human being in this earth is to be Khalifa, to be his deputy, to be his successor in order to implement Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's law. So we as human beings, we are created in order to implement the Sharia or the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
It's very humbling if you think about it in these terms.
Yes, in this word. And also we can understand that the word Khalifa here, because if you look at human being is the species in which there will generation after generation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create the human beings one generation after the generation that will be inhabited in this earth. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is using Khalifa. Khalifa here refers to the Prophet Adam as the first human being that was created in this earth. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give the information to angel that he will create Adam as the first human being in this earth, what did the angel reply? Qalu, they said, the angel said, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء. Are you going to place someone in this earth who will spread the corruption and also will cause blood, shed blood? So it means that angel is asking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about the reason, about the wisdom behind this creation. Oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you are going to create, where you are going to place someone in this earth, and then he will spread the corruption and also cause shed blood. And as you know that we are always worshipping you, we are always glorifying you. Where you want to create someone else beside us, that he will create or spread the corruption on the earth.
So the angels already knew the weakness of human nature.
Yes, because actually if we are look at some interpretation of the Holy Quran, we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already created species before human being.
There were other species,
yes,
right?
That they spread the corruption, they caused shed blood on the earth. So the angel here is asking the wisdom behind this creation, because the angel are the species that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, and they just obey Allah and they will not disobey Allah, where Allah wants to create another species that will spread the corruption and also cause shed blood in this earth. That is why in the angels here said, وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. While we glorify you with all praises, and also we sanctify you, in which they are the obedient. And as long as the angel is obedient to Allah, they never disobey to Allah. That is why angel here is asking Allah the reason behind the creation of human being. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Indeed, I know what you don't know. Indeed, I know the wisdom behind this creation. Okay, this is the first ayah, ayah number 30.
Number 30. Okay. His answer in short is that he can see things and know things that they can't. Does that imply that there will be a good end, that it's for a good reason that he's doing this, creating?
Yes, there will. I mean, there is good wisdom behind it, and Brother Mustafa will explain the wisdom behind this creation.
One more clarifying question about the nature of the angels. You said that they were made from light, and that they obeyed. It's impossible for them to disobey Allah. Do they have
free will?
Yeah.
No. Okay. This is the difference between us and the angels. We have free will. We could obey Allah and we could disobey Allah. And the angel, they just obey Allah. That is when the reason we can be more better than angels, because we have free will. And angels, they don't have free will, they just obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Thank you. Okay, Brother Mustafa.
Well, in the second verse, you notice that Allah says, and He taught Adam all the names, each and every kind and category of knowledge. So what happens is as follows. If you compare the son of Adam, if you compare Adam alayhi salam with the angels, what is the difference? You'll find that the angels, as Brother Luqman has clarified, they are created from light. Prophet Adam is created from clay. And in other verses as well, these are not contradicting verses. No, these are only complex stages created in our creation. So he's created from clay. In other verses, clot of blood. In other verses as well, let's not say mud, but clay is more better. Now, when it comes down to the differences, you will notice that the angels, they cannot disobey Allah. Whereas Prophet Adam alayhi salam, he has been given knowledge over the angels. What is the proof? Is that the angels are asking Allah, why? This term by itself means that the angels do not know the unseen. So no one should say that Gabriel, peace be upon him, knows what God knows. No. No one is a partner with Allah. No one can ever know what Allah knows. Not even Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is ideal proof for the Muslims in matters of aqidah, in matters of creed and belief, that we cannot ever say that the angels know the unseen. This is very vital. Now, in the next verse, verse number 31, Adam alayhi salam has been taught by Allah, and this is an amazing honor. So the son of Adam has been given a privilege over the angels, knowledge. Has been given knowledge, but has been taken away from them the trait of perfection. So we have been stripped away from perfection, but we have been given something else to use, knowledge, to save us from hellfire. And you will notice in the demon race, al-jinn, and the angel race, you will find that the demons, they have knowledge as well. If you look at Satan, may Allah curse him, you will notice that he knows the Quranic laws. He knows the Bible, the biblical laws. He knows the Torah. He knows everything. But there's a big mistake. There's a big problem. He has pride, and he has envy. He has all of these negative states and negative characteristics. So we need to make sure that if we are not angels, we are the middle section, and this is the best of ways. If we are not angels, you'll find people saying, I'm not an angel, man, I'm not perfect. So just because you're not an angel, this is not a license to be a devil.
Right.
So it's always to be living like a human being. Know that the best of creation of Allah is Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he is a human being. So we need to understand and appreciate ourselves. So Prophet Adam was taught all of the names. In a hadith narrated by Anas, the Prophet ﷺ said, on the day of resurrection, the believers shall gather up and say, let us find someone who shall intercede on our behalf. Because it will be such a, I'm going to use the word fantastic, is the best way. I'm not going to say horrible, but it's such a difficult day. And we will be going to each and every prophet, starting with Prophet Adam alayhi salam. And we will tell him, O Adam, Allah has taught you everything, has taught you all of the names. And he, Prophet Adam alayhi salam, shall remember the mistake that he has committed of approaching the tree, which will be discussed in the next verses, inshallah. So you will find that Prophet Adam alayhi salam, this hadith and the verse are linked. So this is not contradictory. Whatever the Prophet ﷺ is explaining to the believers, to the companions, is also in accordance to the Quran. So this is another proof, historical proof, that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was not speaking of his own free will. He was given guidance and he was following the Quranic guidance.
I have a question about, you say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam, peace be upon him, the names of everything. Now, he did not, does this mean that he received a revelation or not? Does this count as him?
There's a big difference between messenger and prophet. A prophet is one who receives inspiration, and it could be in forms of dreams, it can be in forms of seeing things and miracles as well. But a messenger will have to be as a basic characteristic, he has to be a prophet. But the next level of prophethood is that he is a messenger. He receives divine inspiration. He receives commandments and laws in which he commands therein. But the only task of Prophet Adam alayhi salam did not really require to be a messenger. He only had to teach monotheism, teaching that there is no God but Allah. And that was the only main task. And it was all about being a creationist. I don't know if this is the correct term, forgive me if I'm wrong. Believing in the Creator, worshipping none but the Creator. And political order did not really exist because they were all believers. But there were sinners as well amongst them. That's all.
Okay. All right. So do we move next to the next ayat?
Yes.
Yes.
This is ayat number...
number 33.
32. This is verse number 3.
Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the ayah number 33, in which the angel said, after the angel was asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about the wisdom behind this creation, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to create someone in this earth who will spread the corruption and also cause the blood, the shed blood.
But before you continue, just to let you know, about 5 minutes left.
Okay. After this discussion between Allah and angel, and then angels said, after they had, sort of thinkings that is not relevant, they said, Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma'alamtana. Glory be to you, la ilma lana, we don't have any knowledge, illa ma'alamtana, except what you already taught us. The knowledge comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and angel will have no any knowledge except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught them. That is why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was teaching Adam as the first human about all names of all things, this is the difference between angels and Adam. Adam, he could mention all names of everything, but angel, they could not mention any name, because Adam has knowledge, and probably the human being was given the tool of communication in beautiful way. It is the difference between human beings and other creation. That is why here angel, they realize and they admit their mistake, their understanding that human being will spread the corruption, human being will cause shed blood in the earth. They admit their mistake. They admit their mistake. That is why they are saying here, La ilma lana, we don't have any knowledge, illa ma'alamtana, except what you already taught us. Innaka antal alimul hakim, indeed you are all knowers and also you are all wise, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of knowledge. Everything that we know, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So they're correcting themselves, saying yeah, okay. All right, so do we go to 34 next?
Yes, inshallah. I believe when Adam alayhi salam was then commanded by Allah, now this is the difference. The angels, they're commanded and they do not know what they say of. They merely receive the information and they deliver it, or they act upon the commands. Whereas Prophet Adam alayhi salam, he is taught and commanded. So this is another trait as well. It's the same, but I'm just saying in another level. So Prophet Adam alayhi salam was then commanded by Allah, tell them, inform them of the names, that of which I have taught you. And he did so. Then Allah directed to the angels this message, saying, did I not tell you, did I inform you that I am the knower of the unseen, that I know everything, and whatever they conceal and whatever they act upon, I know of it. So this is explained in the Quran. So we understand that Allah the Almighty, not only as Brother Luqman said, the source of knowledge, He also gave Prophet Adam alayhi salam a dignifying position. You know, when you, of course, to Allah, the best of examples, in schools they give the show and tell, you know, and they're proud of something and they show it to the other pupils as well. So imagine the Creator, the Almighty, when He shows the angels His creation, and He says that I have created a successor to place on earth, and he shall rule, and they shall. So we are above all animals, we're above everything. We use iron, we use everything in this earth, in this world. So alhamdulillah, this is a blessing from Allah that we have been dignified. But we're doing the opposite.
So yeah, right. So I'm just kind of hung up on this information that Allah gave Adam. It's about the material world that he was placed into, explaining to him, this is sun, this is moon, this is river, mountain, this is rain. All this was explained to him, how the material world is made and how it works. This is the information that he received that the angels didn't have.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, just 1 minute left, very quickly, verse 35.
Okay, we still have one ayah in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, remember when we said to the angels, prostrate yourself to the Adam, fasajadu, and then all angels are prostrating to Adam, illa iblis, except Iblis. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving commitment to angels to prostrate Adam. But this prostration is not kind of worship, but sort of respect of Adam, because he is the first creation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking angels to prostrate themselves to the first creation, that is Adam. And then all of them are prostrating, illa Iblis, except Iblis. So Iblis, he didn't want to prostrate to Adam's, because he is thinking that he is more better in the creation from Adam. Iblis was created from fire, and Adam was created from the dust or from the earth. So he thinks that he is better than Adam. That is why he didn't want to prostrate to Adam. Abba, he refused. Wastakbara, and he is arrogant. Wa kana min al-kafirin, and Iblis is among al-kafirin, or those who disbelieve to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
All right. We have to leave it there for today, dear brothers. Thank you, Brother Luqman and Brother Mustafa.
You're welcome, brother. May Allah bless you.
This will conclude today's program. Thank you for being with us. We hope you enjoyed it. It was beneficial, inshallah, in your lives as Muslims. We, inshallah, will be back tomorrow with more news, information, and discussion. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.